In 2008, the most expensive theme park ever built in the United States opened its gates in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It cost $400 million. 9 months later, it was closed, silent, and up for auction. The winning bid? $25 million. About 6 cents on the dollar. Hard Rock Park had everything the textbooks ask for. A beach town with 14 million visitors a year. A world-famous brand on the sign, and a headline coaster themed to one of the biggest rock bands in history. Brand new rides that had barely stopped smelling of fresh paint. And none of it mattered. Here is the uncomfortable truth about theme parks. The rides are the cheapest part of the story. What actually decides whether a park lives or dies is a brutal piece of arithmetic that most owners only understand after the gates are open. And it is the same arithmetic whether the sign says Disney or a name nobody remembers. So put yourself in the owner's seat. The loan payments on $400 million come due every single month, rain or shine. Your product is fun, and fun is the first thing families cut when money gets tight. In a good year, that is stressful. In a recession, it is fatal. Every morning the park opens, you start the day hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole before a single ticket is scanned. To understand why, you have to price the gate itself. Because before a park can sell a single ride, it has to buy all of them. A single major roller coaster costs $20 to $30 million. Not the land under it, not the queue, the theming, or the station. Just the steel, the trains, and the engineering that keeps them on the track. The tallest and fastest machines, the ones that make the commercials, can cost double that. Wrap that coaster in a story. Rockwork, animatronics, lighting, sound, and the bill can triple. Modern themed lands at the big resorts are budgeted like Hollywood blockbusters. At the top end, a single immersive land can swallow $500 million before the first guest walks in. Then comes everything guests never photograph. Water treatment for the fountains, backup generators, workshops, warehouses, staff canteens, and miles of service roads hidden behind the scenery. Roughly a third of a park's footprint is a factory the public never sees. Guests see a castle. Accountants see a utility company wearing a costume. Land is its own trap. A regional park needs hundreds of acres, near a highway, near a city, but cheap enough to justify parking lots the size of farms. The parking alone can demand more land than every ride combined. Buy too far out and nobody comes. Buy too close in and the mortgage eats you. Add it up, and even a modest regional park opens its doors owing more than many airlines. Lenders know it, and they price park debt accordingly. And unlike an office tower, a park cannot be quietly converted into anything else. It earns as a park, or it dies as one. Now open the gates. Walt Disney World employs around 77,000 people, the largest single-site workforce in the United States. Ride operators, cooks, engineers, gardeners, and divers who clean the lagoons at night. Every one of those paychecks clears whether the turnstiles spin or not. Before opening, every ride is inspected, every morning. Maintenance crews walk coaster tracks at dawn, checking bolts by hand and by sensor. One major attraction can demand a 7-figure maintenance budget every single year. That is not caution theater. One stuck ride becomes national news by dinner time. Electricity is its own line item. Launch coasters pull megawatts. Kitchens, freezers, water pumps, parade floats, and air conditioning for indoor queues in 95-degree heat. A big part consumes power like a small town, and the utility bill for a major resort runs to tens of millions a year. Then there is insurance. Machines that fling human beings through the air at 70 miles an hour are exactly as expensive to insure as they sound. Premiums, inspections, lawyers on retainer. The meter never stops. All of that burns whether 10,000 people show up or nobody does. A theme park is a fixed-cost machine. Hotels can close floors. Airlines can park planes. A theme park cannot shrink. The costs are locked in and only the revenue moves. Which raises the real question: where does the money actually come from? Here is the part that surprises everyone. The gate ticket is not where a park gets rich. The real business begins after you are inside, and by lunchtime, you are holding it in your hand. Walk through any park with an accountant, and they will ignore the rides completely. A soda that costs the park pennies sells for $6. A churro, a light-up wand, a photo of you screaming on the drop. Margins on food and merchandise run far beyond anything the turnstile earns. Industry veterans put it bluntly: the coaster gets them in the car, the churro pays the mortgage. And the single most profitable acre of the property is usually the flattest one: the parking lot. $30 per car at the big resorts, with almost no cost against it. No queue, no staff to speak of, no maintenance. Just painted lines collecting money in the sun. Asphalt out-earns animatronics. This is why every ride exits through a gift shop, why the ice cream cart waits at the bottom of the drop, and why the park map routes you past food stalls. The layout is not decoration. It is a revenue diagram you walk through, and nothing about where you walk, wait, or rest was left to chance. Pricing itself became a science. The same gate that charged one flat price for decades now moves with the calendar. Cheap Tuesdays in February, premium Saturdays in July. Parks learned from airlines. The product expires at closing time, so no coaster train should ever leave empty. Analysts track one number above all: per capita spending, what the average guest leaves behind in a day. Lift it by $5 across 1 million guests, and you have built the financial equivalent of a new coaster without pouring an ounce of concrete. But there is a catch that no gift shop can fix. Most parks on this planet are only truly open for about 130 days a year. The machines sleep for 200 days. The debt never does. Regional parks in cold climates live on weekends, summer holidays, and Halloween. The entire year's revenue must be earned in a window shorter than a school semester, while the loans charge interest for all 12 months. Miss a sunny Saturday in June, and there is no Tuesday in November to win it back. Now add weather. A single rained-out Saturday in July can erase a measurable slice of annual profit. Owners watch radar maps the way farmers do, because in this business, clouds are a line item. Some operators now even buy weather insurance, hedging sunshine the way farmers hedge wheat. This is the quiet reason parks keep adding indoor rides, water parks, and winter light festivals. Every extra operating day is pure leverage on costs that were already paid. Which brings us to the exception that proves every rule. Disney. Walt Disney World alone covers around 25,000 acres, roughly the size of San Francisco. Inside those borders sit 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, and more hotel rooms than most downtowns. The Magic Kingdom draws over 17 million visitors a year, the most visited theme park on Earth. And the parks division behind it brings in more than $30 billion annually. That is larger than the entire economy of some countries. The trick is not the rides. It is the flywheel. A film creates characters. The characters fill the park. The park sells the merchandise. And the hotel keeps you on property, spending, for every meal of a 5-day trip. Every ride is an advertisement for a film, and every film is an advertisement for the ride. Hotels are the masterstroke. Once you sleep inside the gates, the park captures breakfast, dinner, souvenirs, and tomorrow's tickets. The competition is not another park anymore. It is the entire outside world, and it has been locked out. And the giants keep doubling down. Universal's newest Orlando park, Epic Universe, reportedly cost around $7 billion, the biggest theme park bet in America in a quarter century. At this scale, parks are not attractions. They are permanent economies with their own hotels, highways, and weather plans. So the formula looks solved. Build coasters, mark up churros, charge for asphalt, add a hotel. A money printer with a queue line. Except it is not, and the graveyard of this industry proves it. Between the blueprint and the balance sheet, this business has buried more fortunes than it minted. In 2009, Six Flags, one of the most famous names in the business, with parks across the continent, filed for bankruptcy, carrying roughly $2.4 billion of debt. People were still riding the coasters while the company drowned. The rides were profitable. The balance sheet was not. And the balance sheet always wins. The killer is the treadmill. Attendance sags unless there is something new to advertise. So parks must keep buying $20 million rides just to stand still. Skip one season and your neighbor's new coaster empties your parking lot. Meanwhile, everything ages in fast forward. Sun, rain, and 40,000 daily riders grind attractions down. Steel fatigues, paint fades. A ride that stops being maintained does not become cheaper. It becomes a demolition bill. That was Hard Rock Park's real lesson. It did not fail because the rides were bad. It opened with blockbuster debt into a recession in a market of bargain-hunting beach tourists. A fixed-cost machine with no margin for a single bad summer. Timing, debt, and audience. It got all three wrong at once, and two would have been survivable. Run the numbers one last time. $400 million to build. 9 months of operation. $25 million at auction. The steel was worth 6 cents on the dollar the moment the crowds chose not to come. 9 figures of theming could not buy a single repeat visit. Because that is the final truth of this asset. A theme park owns almost nothing of durable value except a promise that next summer, millions of strangers will once again decide to drive past everything else and pay to scream. Disney turned that promise into a kingdom. Hard Rock Park turned it into the most expensive auction in Myrtle Beach history. Same machines, same steel, same sunshine. So here is the question. If fun is the most perishable product ever sold, would you dare to own the factory?